Congress is going to be incredibly competitive in the election next year in 26. And Republicans are very worried because there's a good chance the Republicans are going to lose the House. The election, the midterm election is usually one in which the incumbent political party loses. And right now, the Republicans have, a 3-vote majority in the House of Representatives. It's very likely, if you had to put odds on it, just put aside all the politics and what's going on in the world, just straight straight precedent, you'd have to argue that it's incredibly likely that Republicans lose the House of Representatives. I don't know if they lose the Senate. That's going to be a lot closer. They probably don't gain in the Senate, but I don't think Republicans lose the Senate either. So it'll be interesting to see. What happens. But House is good chance that they lose it, and they could lose big, given how unpopular Trump is. The only thing saving Republicans right now from completely being slaughtered in the midterm election is the fact that there's only one thing more unpopular than Trump. And the thing that is more unpopular than Trump is other Democrats. Democrats are less popular than Trump. But Trump is very unpopular. The tariffs are very unpopular. I think by next year, people will feel the tariffs. They'll pay the cost of the tariffs. We'll talk about tariffs in a minute, but people have said, oh, you can avoid the tariffs by just not buying stuff that's made in outside the United States. That's easier said than done. Like, what smartphone would you buy? Now, right now, there's an exception for smartphones, right? But if the tariffs go on smartphones, what smartphone would you buy? But put that aside, a lot of the things you buy that are labeled made in the United States have components that are not made in the United States. So you're paying a tariff one way or the other. What about clothes? Any of you buy clothes? How many of you only buy clothes made in America? Like, do you have anything to wear? There's almost no clothes made in America. So you can try to go out there and buy America and avoid paying the tariff that way. But the chance that you can actually be successful is very, very, very low. It's just not doable. It's just not practical. Anyway, the consequence of the fact that Republicans are probably going to lose the House is a little bit of panic in the Republican Party, and the consequence of the panic is to try to figure out how to minimize the losses or to reverse them. And one way to do that is what's called to gerrymander. That is to redo the borders of the districts that elect members to the House of Representatives in order to maximize the number of Republicans that get elected. So the state doing that right now, that has already proposed a map that they believe would increase the number of Republicans in the House of Representatives by 5, is Texas. And what they basically do, what gerrymandering, what redistricting basically comprises of, is drawing the lines for the districts in ways that, in a sense, concentrate all the Democrats in a few districts, which you're going to lose, and diluting their presence in all the other districts, including districts maybe they used to have a majority in. Now you split that district up in a way that that splits the Democrats with the Republicans in a way that Republicans have a majority in each one of those. This has been done almost since the founding, and it was a major. It's a major way in which the parties rejigger. Now they do it. They have to do it every 10 years after the census, because that's the time in which you get actual population numbers and you know who's living where, and it's a time to kind of redo redo the districts, the congressional districts. But what Texas is doing is, what is it, 2025? So we're not anywhere near a census. They're doing it in the middle, between two censuses, which is not usual. It's not something usually done. It's an exception, but it's legal. There's no case to be made that it is illegal. That it's illegal, and there's no case to be made. This can't go to the courts. There's arguably the courts will intervene if the gerrymandering is done along racial grounds. That is to basically make sure that blacks don't get any representatives out of places where there were a lot of blacks, as I think the state of Alabama has been trying to do. And the Supreme Court has denied them and keeps sending it back to redo. So they don't want to do, the courts generally will not review cases which is political. So before we get to the Texas case, just to give you some history, the term gerrymandering goes back to 1812, when Massachusetts Governor Elbridge Gerry signed a bill redrawing state Senate districts to benefit the Democratic-Republican Party. I guess against whom? I'm not sure. Against the Whigs? Or some thought, that the districts were very odd-shaped, that one of them looked like a salamander. A newspaper illustration dubbed it Gerrymander. And the term has now come down to describe any district drawn for political advantage, drawn in order to maximize a particular party's presence in a particular district or to minimize. Gerrymandering. Elbridge Gerry, by the way, lost a re-election campaign to be governor of Massachusetts in 1812, but he won election that same year as vice president with President James Madison. So he was James Madison's vice president. Again, according to the U.S. Constitution, political gerrymandering is not illegal. In a 2019 case that came out of North Carolina, the Supreme Court ruled that federal courts have no authority to decide whether partisan gerrymandering goes too far. Chief Justice Roberts wrote, quote, "The Constitution supplies no objective measure for assessing whether a district map treats a political party fairly." So the Supreme Court's not going to save the Democrats from losing the fight seats in Texas. Now, the redistricting plan has to pass the House and the Senate. It has to be and then signed by the governor of the state. Texas was going to vote on this week or last week, and Democratic politicians just left the state. They left the state to deny the Republicans, in a sense, a quorum, which would allow for a vote. So this is the delay tactic. They can't stop it. If they'd stayed in Texas, state marshals would have showed up and forced them to go to the State House. As it is, they're being fined $500 a day. And Texas will now sue the Democrats for dereliction of duty, in a sense, or vacating their post. And so, this is where we are. Again, it's legal. It's not right. It's not good. It's not just. I mean, it would be good if, Congress could pass a law saying you can only change the districts after census once. So once every 10 years, you get to change the districts based on census information, which makes sense. But the reality is that right now, Congress cannot get a bill passed if there's any opposition, if the Republicans oppose it. I don't think there'll be enough Republicans supporting this. The only thing that could cause Republicans to maybe support something like that is if Democrats do the same thing in other states. So Illinois has threatened to do it. Now, Illinois only has 3 Republican districts. Maybe they could get rid of those 3. I don't know. Much more significant is New York is trying to do it. Could try to do this. California could try to do this. Now, in both places, it would require them to deal with different provisions in their state constitutions or in their legislation that have tried to control gerrymandering in the past, tried to limit it and minimize it. But I think if the political will is there, and I think if Texas does this, the political will is there for them to gerrymander, and there might be other Democratic states in which they can squeeze out a few votes here and there, squeeze out a few Republicans here and there. But it's a pretty despicable game overall. Yeah, I mean, there are no objective standard by which you should draw districts, but it does make sense to make the districts, geographically look reasonable rather than some of the absurdities that are being generated by these maps. Gerrymandering, salamander, these long, thin districts and stuff like that. All of this is really being done by the Democrats under the influence of Trump. I mean, Trump has told the Republicans that they need to do this. He put pressure on Texas to do this, and this is Trump's comment. It's perfectly Trumpish, the comment, and perfectly Trumpish, and you'll get it. Okay, here we go. Quote, this is from Trump this morning. We have an opportunity in Texas to pick up 5 seats. We have a really good governor, and we have good people in Texas. And I won Texas. I got the highest vote in the history of Texas, as you probably know. And we are entitled to 5 more seats. Now, I have no idea if he got the most votes in the history of Texas. I'm skeptical, but it doesn't really matter. What I find really, that's par for the course for Trump. What I find really interesting is that we are entitled to 5 more seats. Now, who gets to decide who is entitled to how many seats? The President of the United States get to decide how many. I mean, maybe we should skip the midterm election completely and just have Donald Trump decide how many seats he's entitled to, how many seats Republicans are entitled to, and that's what we should put in the House of Representatives. I mean, why bother with an election when we're entitled to some seats? Anyway, again, this is a game Republicans and Democrats have been playing since 1812, although they weren't Republicans and Democrats in those days, but it's a game they've been playing since 1812. It's a game they'll continue to play. This is particularly egregious, but not for the first time. They've been as egregious, if not as egregious, cases in the past. This will just lead the Democrats to do the same thing, whether now or in the future. It's a zero-sum, silly political game, but Republicans are desperate. Remember, this is an act of desperation. Republicans are really, really, really worried about the midterm election. They're really, really worried about losing the House. And they really don't want to lose the House. Oops. Trying to make sure the plug stays plugged in. All right. All right. Yes, so I'll keep you updated. Democrats will come back to the state of Texas at some point. Democratic donors will pay up their fine of $500 a day that they're away. And Texas will have new districts, and they will have probably next election 5 new Republican congressmen. Of course, there's always an opportunity that voters get so upset with the politicians and with the Republican Party and everything else that's going on that they just tell them to go to hell and vote for a Democrat. Now, it's unlikely that'll happen in Texas, but one can always hope. Wouldn't it be great if voters penalized their own party sometimes for their misbehavior, both Democrats and Republicans? Wouldn't that be cool if people actually weren't fixated on a tribal affiliation with their political party and actually voted what they thought in terms of whether the political party was doing good or bad, rather than a tribal loyalty? So anyway, that's what we have, and of course, Trump's agenda depends on him keeping the House and keeping the Senate. It's the only way to get legislation passed. Although he doesn't seem to care much about legislation, he can always sign executive orders. There is the issue of things like impeachment, and controlling the House just is a lot easier for Trump. It would be a lot easier for any president to control both chambers. When the other party has one of the chambers, they get a bully pulpit, they get media attention, they get coverage, but more importantly, they get to pass legislation, and they get to ignore your agenda, and they get to potentially impeach you. So it would be a lot easier.